Chilling facts about Mr. Cruel. Number 1. The first victim. The initially recorded wrongdoing of Mr. Brutal happened on Saturday, August 22, 1987. His objective was the Lower Plenty segment of Melbourne. As in 1987, the 2011 statistics demonstrated that Lower Plenty was home to middle-class experts and a few wealthy families. Melbourne was a protected city, as well, and the family in Lower Plenty likely felt that their home was secure that evening. Unexpectedly, it was that apparently protected house that Mr. Brutal disregarded first. At some point around 4 a.m., he eliminated a sheet of glass from a parlor window. Once inside, Mr. Merciless, who used a blade and a weapon, found the resting family, woke them up, and afterward constrained every one of them onto their stomachs. The gatecrasher advised the family to try to avoid panicking as he was just keen on cash. The mother and father had their hands and feet bound and were pushed into a closet. They were additionally choked and blindfolded with careful tape, the two of which had been brought to the home by Mr. Remorseless. The family's 6-year-old child was attached to his bed and blindfolded with careful tape too. The 11-year-old girl, who was rarely recognized, was assaulted for 2 hours. During this attack, Mr. Unfeeling would take breaks, including making himself a feast in the family's kitchen. Assault was clearly his rationale, for the lone things Mr. Merciless took from the house were some vinyl records and an old blue coat. The examiners for this situation neglected to discover anybody in the anonymous family's circle who might need to do them hurt. By appearances, this was an irregular assault with close to no signs gave up. The lone piece of data that the girl recollected was that the assailant had utilized the family's phone to undermine another family. Mr. Brutal cautioned this obscure individual, whom he called Bozo, that his youngsters were straight away. At the point when the police evaluated the family's telephone records, they found that no call had been made during that time. Number 2. Attack in Ringwood. A year after the Lower Plenty assault, Mr. Pitiless struck once more. As in the past, his objective was a home in a peaceful Melbourne suburb. This time, it was Ringwood and the Wills family. At around 5:45 a.m. on December 27, 1988, Mr. Remorseless, wearing dim blue overalls and wearing a dim blue or dark balaclava, figured out how to break into the Wills' family home. The principal sign of his quality was seen by the patriarch, John Wills. The gatecrasher put a firearm to Mr. Wills' sanctuary and said to him, "Don't be a legend." In the wake of getting the mother, Julie Wills, to quit shouting, Mr. Pitiless tied up the two of them with copper wire and left them lying face down on their bed. He additionally swiped $35 from the end table nearly as a reconsideration. As could be, burglary was distinctly not Mr. Barbara's intention. Subsequent to dealing with the Wills guardians and cutting all the telephone lines, Mr. Barbaras advanced toward the room where the family's youngsters rested. Inside were 5-year-old Annette, 8-year-old twins Robin and Linda, and 10-year-old Sharon. The obscure man shouted to Sharon by name. This reality drove a few examiners to accept that Mr. Savage knew his casualty by and by. It might have likewise been that the attacker had perused a news anecdote about the family, who had endured a house fire a half-year sooner. Mr. Barbaras got Sharon, choked her, and left the house with a couple of things of the young lady's garments. When John and Julie got away from their servitude, they discovered both the interloper and Sharon gone. 18 hours after this assault, Sharon was discovered enclosed by green plastic trash containers on the grounds of Bayswater High School. Subsequent to being found by a bystander, Sharon was returned to her family by police. Sharon was depicted as a "don't be a legend" by her damaged dad during a public interview. She furnished the police with insights regarding her abductor subtleties that will be examined without further ado. Number 3. Canterbury Attack. Mr. Brutal took 1989 off just to strike again in 1990. On July 3, 1990, in the generally quiet Melbourne suburb of Canterbury, the attacker broke a window and entered the Linnes family home at around 11:30 p.m. He came equipped with a blade, a firearm, and a lot of careful tape. The Linnes family were British residents and, at the hour of the assault, were anticipating getting back to England. The family included guardians Brian and Rosemary and girls Fiona, 15, and Nicola, 13. Nicola was an understudy at Presbyterian Ladies' College. Dissimilar to in the past wrongdoings, the guardians were away from home at a disappearing party. Subsequently, Mr. Pitiless confronted almost no opposition. Exactly as expected, Mr. Merciless kidnapped Nicola and held her for a stunning 50 hours. She was explicitly attacked for most of her time in imprisonment. Before leaving with Nicola, Mr. Cold-Blooded gave up a few distractions. First off, in the wake of authoritative, blindfolding, and choking Fiona, the aggressor disclosed to her that he needed $25,000. Subsequently, Nicola's snatching was important for a payment plot, he told Fiona. Notwithstanding, Mr. Cold-Blooded didn't furnish Fiona or any other person with any sort of data about how he needed the $25,000 to be conveyed. Once more, it was each of the a ploy. The veiled aggressor got away by driving off in a rental vehicle that the Linus family had been utilizing. He jettisoned the vehicle around 1 kilometer, 0.6 miles, away. More than likely, Mr. Unfeeling utilized another vehicle to take Nicola to his place of detestations. If you like what you see, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Number 4 Clues. Both Sharon Wills and Nicola Linus furnished police with data about Mr. Pitiless. Sharon said that he talked in a dull, short way. Be that as it may, she additionally depicted him as kind and delicate. She portrayed his voice as delicate. One of the additional enticing pieces of information that Sharon, and later Nicola, gave to investigators was that Mr. Barbaros lived near an air terminal. The two young ladies heard the sound of planes showing up and leaving. Specialists sorted out that Mr. Brutal lived someplace close to the flightway of Tullamarine Airport. While neither one of the girls figured out how to really see Mr. Merciless, Nicola said that he had rosy earthy-colored hair and stood someplace almost 173 centimeters, 5 feet 8 inches, tall. Nicola even figured out how to get a look at the aggressor's room and washroom, the two of which were depicted as perfect and all around kept up. Both Sharon and Nicola had been washed, had their toenails cut, and had their teeth brushed by their captor. The most alarming and suffering picture of Mr. Pitiless was given by the two young ladies. They portrayed him as wearing a dull blue or dark balaclava with white sewing around the eyes and mouth. Number 5 The murder of Carmine Chan.